So at the time of recording this, on Friday the 20th of October, which is when I'm hoping this video will go up, tomorrow will mark a month since Payday 3 released globally to everybody, and it's been just over a month already since people got early access to it like I did on the 18th of September last month. And we haven't had a single game update, and since my last couple of videos, we've had absolutely no clarification on what's going on there. So I'm making this video as a final one for the time being, because I'll be honest with you everyone, I'm done. I've had enough. That's just on the bottom of it. I've had a few conversations recently with people saying that all the videos I've made recently have been very negative and they've not really said much that's kind of positive about the game. And you know what? You're right, because I haven't had anything good to say about the game. I've made this clear on record quite a few times. So what I'm doing in this video is I'm going to do one last big message to Starbreeze on the hopes that something sticks, because at this point I'm throwing things at the wall and hoping something sticks, and nothing seems to have done so far, at least from what we've heard back from them, because it's not been much. But I want to highlight some very clear key things. I'm not just going to ramble, I want to make some very specific points, and then that's it. Until we get a proper update as to where the patch is, I'm not bothering, because I'm not even playing the game at the minute. I don't care enough to. And Payday 3, as I've said a million times before, is a very good game that has been sullied by a botched launch and a month with terrible communication that hasn't improved despite people begging them to actually just share some inside information. But what makes it worse for me is that this is the game I've been waiting for 7 years, not just as a fan of Payday, as someone who loves Payday 2, but as someone who was so keen to have a new era of Payday 3 videos where I talk about all the good things, all the features, do loads of stealth, builds, all sorts of stuff. I have zero motivation to make any stealth tutorials. I put one out on Under the Surface and that was half-assed because it was just recorded on the stream. I mean, fair, getting them off the stream is fine, but I kind of in my head thought, I guess I'll put that up because I've got nothing better to put up. That was where my head was at. And I just have no motivation to make anything other than these news videos. For people saying, oh, you should go back to Payday 2, I don't want to. I shouldn't have to. Because as far as I'm concerned, I was ready to leave Payday 2 behind for Payday 3. If Payday 3 isn't doing it for me, I'm just going to give Payday a break. I'm not going back to an old game because the new one can't suffice. That's not what games are for. I'm going to move on to something else that I enjoy more and we'll talk about more. Like Sonic Frontiers' final update, which I have played extensively, talked about extensively, and I'm sorry to any of my friends who have had to deal with me hyperfixating over it for the last few weeks, but there's that. There's Spider-Man, the Sonic Superstars that came out this week. I'd much rather talk about the things I actually enjoy, and Payday 3 has not been something I've enjoyed talking about for several weeks now because of all the stuff that's been going on around it, or not going on around it, should I say. Which, speaking of, I do have a channel for talking about non-payday stuff, so if you do want to go and subscribe to it, you may well see a lot more activity over there. I've been very bad with upload schedules recently, but I kind of would rather put some time into that until Payday 3 gets news. So I'll link it on screen and in the description. It's called Troy's Thoughts. Feel free to go give it a check out if you want to. I'll probably put some more stuff up on there soon. And I realise this all sounds very final, and it's not me saying, that's it, I'm done for good. It's that right now, I am sick of being negative about it. I'm not a negative person, so I'm giving it a break until I have a reason to say something good about the game. And I am desperately begging and clutching at that opportunity, but it hasn't shown yet, so I'm going to wait until it does. And of course, as always, I do want to know where everyone else's heads are at in the comment section below, because I do want to know, have you given up with Payday 3? Have you had enough? Are you still playing it? Where is your head at? I genuinely would be interested to know, because at the minute, all I'm seeing in my comment section and a lot of other people's comment section is a great amount of negativity, refunding claims, all sorts of stuff like that. So I'm going to be interested to see what you all think on this one. Let's get into it. So, obviously, with it being a month with no updates, the one thing I need to stress right from the beginning is the community's opinion. And as I've said, just about you guys leaving comments, you're seeing consistently more people playing Payday 2 than Payday 3. Now, that is kind of to be expected in a lot of ways, because Payday 2 is a 10-year-old game with far more support and all that stuff. But it's been consistently, notably more in the last few weeks. People just are not bothering with Payday 3 nearly as much. And the amount of times I've seen people pop in my Discord server and go, look at the numbers, they're so much better on Payday 2. But it's not really very surprising when you realise that there have been tons of game exploits, notably the 99 boxes one, which I've mentioned a couple of times in a video, and I haven't spoiled it because I was hoping some people would leave it alone. But I think at this point, anyone who wants to know how to glitch their levels will have looked up that glitch about 3 weeks ago and done it, and it's still not been patched. So the weapon leveling system is completely screwed now for anyone who's played the game in the first month, because you can just cheat all your weapon levels. And honestly, I'm getting to the point where I'm half considering using it. I'm not going to, but I'm like, everyone else is doing it. Everyone else is leveling their guns up, and I'm sat here trying to play fair. Why hasn't this been patched? There should have been a patch by now. We've said this a million times. The fact that an always online game, which is still a phrase I don't like, I've been through that a million times, a game with no offline mode, a game with a week plus of server issues, has not even had a day one patch, let alone a patch within a month, is disgraceful. It's the simple, bluntest word for it, and I've not got much more to say on that because I've said it a million times, but I want to reinforce it because it needs saying. I cannot believe that this game has not had a single patch. I don't care what the circumstances are behind the scenes. The fact that that hasn't happened, Starbreeze can even agree, I'm sure, that is the most disgraceful thing this game could have done in the last month, and I'm extremely disappointed with it. But the thing that I really need to talk about in more detail, the thing I've been kind of touching on and hinting at for weeks now, is about this issue with communication. Now, I've just kind of been rambling and putting random thoughts out there until now, but what I wanted to do for this video is sit down and really give some proper examples of how they could make this better, because clearly me saying talk to us more was not enough. It's fallen on deaf ears, or they're not bothered to listen to me say it. I don't know at this point. I may as well assume the worst because I've not been proven anything otherwise, and it's not what I like to do. So let me put out some clear things that I think they can do that I don't really think you can dispute in any way, shape, or form. If you can dispute it in the comments, feel free to, but as far as I'm concerned, they're self-sabotaging at this point by not telling us key information. So here's the first thing. They need to make sure that when they put out press releases, there is consistent information. If you look up any media article right now about patches being delayed, you will see that 9 times out of 10, it says the first patch was going to have 200 plus quality of life changes. Anyone who's seen my videos in recent weeks knows that that is absolute garbage. But the reason that they say that is because Starbreeze said it. They put out a press release a couple of weeks ago. I did a video on it at the time, but it said in their little timetable of things to come, the first update would be 200 plus quality of life changes, which is not true. It's 200 plus bug fixes. And just sliding this in case someone wants me to explain the difference between the two, bug fixes are fixing actual issues of the game, things not working as intended, whereas quality of life changes are adding things and changing things to the game to make it more fun to play, adding new options, accessibility features, that kind of thing. Fixing a problem and introducing a new thing are two very different things, and therefore have two very different levels of expectations. And Starbreeze said that repeatedly on those dev streams they did a couple of weeks ago, which, need I remind you, they still didn't share any information from publicly on any other platform than those streams. If you didn't watch the stream or watch my videos, chances are you still haven't got a single clue what the hell they said on there. No Twitter share, no Steam forum posts, no nothing. So as soon as you make one tiny mistake in a press release like that, there's no evidence anywhere else to prove otherwise. What are the media going to do? They're going to run with what you've put out there. And so there are so many people now thinking, oh, it's a big update that's going to fix the game, and it's not here yet. So when that update does eventually drop, which goodness knows when it'll be, think how many people now are going to sit there and go, these are meant to be quality of life fixes, but you've not changed anything, you've just patched bugs. What have I got to wait now, another 2 months for actual quality of life changes? You've got to make sure you're consistent with what you say, and you haven't been since the get-go. But aside from that, we have to talk about this patch. I mean, we still don't know, as I've said before, if we're getting a small update or a big one for the bug fixes. For clarification, I've done this a few times, and I apologise to anyone who's been on my channel about 4 or 5 times and heard this already, but there was going to be this big bug fixing patch on October 5th that they couldn't then deliver on that date. So they said, we're going to push out a few things on that date still and delay the rest. That small update then also got delayed because that couldn't be delivered on time. But they haven't now said if that small update's still going to come first or if everything's being recombined. Logic dictates you'd recombine the update, because if you had to delay what you were going to release anyway, you may as well put it back with the other stuff you couldn't release to begin with. That makes sense to me. But you haven't said it. So we don't even know what update to expect because you haven't told us, and that is simple information. That's not protected by an NDA or something. Surely you can tell us the content, but that plays into a wider thing, which is patch notes. Really, at this point, because it's been so long, I think it would really set a good example for the community if you share a work in progress and specify it is that. So if someone does complain about something being different at launch, you can say, we did say it was work in progress, but put something out as a rough list of what people can expect in the patch. Let them know what you're spending so long trying to get to work. Let them know every fix, every bug you're working on, every crash issue you're trying to prevent, any issues like that. Tell people, because then they can see that there's actually some things they can hopefully expect when the patch comes out. Because right now, at this point, especially with something I'm going to get into later, which is a straight up lie that we were told about a feature of the game, who's to say anyone actually believes there's going to be 200 plus bug fixes? I'm not saying you're lying about it, but you're not giving us information to back the point. And if you don't do that, people will make their own assumptions. It's the same as what happened in June when the game kept leaking and y'all didn't say anything. You just let the narrative get spun without controlling it. And the history is repeating itself. It's not even a case of this was a mistake 10 years ago people have forgotten about. You keep doing it. Please stop! Share the patch notes and tell us they're a work in progress. Give us something to go off. But if I was to boil it down to one thing I really wish they'd tell us, it's when the update is ready for certification, when it's been pushed out for approval. Because if you don't understand the process still, if you haven't seen all the videos, you don't get the explanation. Basically, on consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, Sony and Microsoft, when you send an update out, they've got to test the update and approve it before it gets pushed out on their platforms. And obviously Starbreeze don't want to put out an update on any platform until it's ready for all of them. So these fixes could be very quickly sent out to PC on Steam by going, hey Valve, can we put this out? And they go, sure, and that's it. but you can't have that same luxury with Sony and Microsoft. And because they want to ensure parity on all platforms and everyone getting the same things at the same time, which, good, apart from PS5 still not having their pre-order stuff, which, don't get me started, that's been a month, I'm literally losing it over that, I'm very angry about it. But the point is, because they want everyone to get the same updates at the same time, until it's ready on all platforms, they can't put an update out. So tell us when it's going out for certification, because I need to clarify this, you did that for console for Payday 2. When the first update came out for Big Score, the one that took 400 days for you to put out, you actually told us on Twitter when you'd sent it out for approval. So why can't you do that for 3? Is Plyon stopping you? Is that a publishing problem? Whatever it is, please get past it and share the information. If it's not ready for certification yet, that explains why I've not seen it, but I would put all the money I've got in my bank right now, which granted isn't much, that you won't tell us when it goes out for certification, and we'll only know when the update's about to drop, which means we'll be stuck in this limbo for so much longer. Maybe you won't, but you haven't given me much reason to believe otherwise until now. So telling us when it's sent out for certification is like a little bit of a hopeful step, and you can always say in the post, bear in mind this could be rejected if a fault pops up, but at least people know you finished the patch and sent it out. That just proves that you're doing something behind the scenes, which a lot of us know you are, but it's not being proven right now by the actions. You know, actions speak louder than words, and the words aren't saying anything anymore because they're just the same words over and over again. Monday's status that said, we haven't really given you much communication, only really served to further extend the lack of communication. So showing that you've done something by telling us when it's been sent out for certification would be a great step forward, and I seriously hope you guys do that. And if you've already sent the patch out for approval and haven't done that, why not? Just really important that that is put out there, because you really should be saying that. I honestly think part of my own distaste of how the game's been handled could have been so vastly improved by actually telling us about some fixtures you were going to work on. Everything in those streams, while it was cool to hear you discuss all that stuff, was always, this is on the table, we might do this, we're looking into this. There was never really that much where you said, this is definitely happening, and it led to either you just passing things off as, that's a cool idea, or, as I've said a million times, the excuse of, this wasn't in Payday 2 at launch, so why should it be in Payday 3 at launch, which I know wasn't quite how you said it, but that's how it kept coming across towards the end. And things like voice chat not being in the game at launch is not a case of, this is something we can add in later, it's a case of, they should have been in the game at launch, and there are some features in Payday 2, doesn't matter when they were added, they should have been in the game from the start. Not being able to even choose who your AI teammates are is ridiculous. Not being able to customize your team AI was a cool feature in Payday 2 that should have been in Payday 3 at launch. Not having even an insightful pre-planning thing, which I argued so many times over the last few years was such an important part of Payday 2. Now it's just pick a favor. That's it. That not being there sucks. Not even being able to see a layout of the map. There are some features that could just make Payday 3 so much better than it already is that just weren't in there. And if all they do is get passed off as, this wasn't in Payday 2 at launch, but who knows when it might appear in Payday 3, it shows that you're not really ready to commit to many suggestions from the audience, and you need to change that. Because I'm sat here thinking there are so many cool things you could do, and if you tell us some of the things, we can get excited then. We can be with you and support you because we go, we know you're doing something cool, and we can then back it more. It's all very much, this would be cool, or this is on the table, and there's no better example than offline mode, which has been proven several times to have existed within the debug mode of Payday 3. It was built in the framework, and after a week plus of server issues, you still said nothing about it and pretended that it was just something on the table that you were going to consider when, let's face it, considering you've not mentioned it since, I don't think you guys have talked about it since. That's how I feel right now, and I do not like that that is what I'm saying, because I feel like I'm getting cynical, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to ever become that person, but this is what happens when you don't talk to us. And to make it all worse, there's also lying going on. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here, and I know it's not the most reliable thing to say when I'm opening this point. I don't remember who specifically told us this because I've been trying to find the evidence of it and I can't find it anywhere. I think it might have been on a stream somewhere, but I honestly don't know for sure. But I know, because the partners have corroborated this with me, you can see Rob Thanatos and Tough Cook on Twitter both saying it, who are also partners. At some point, Starbreeze told us that the art in the under the surface art gallery was not AI in any way, shape or form. It was done to be a spoof of AI, but it was all 100% designed by real people. That has now been proven to be unequivocally false because on ArtStation, a platform designed to show off people's work in games, etc., one of the level designers confirmed in a description of Under the Surface that AI was used throughout creating the art in the art gallery. This is bad for two reasons, one of which is probably obvious, one of which I've seen people asking me they don't understand why it's bad, so let me explain it to you. First off, a straight off lie, and then having partners corroborate that lie because they don't know any better. I'm livid about that. I am not a happy camper that I've been telling people, oh, it's not AI, don't worry guys, I know you're worried, they've said it's not, we're all good, and that was utter trash. I hate that I have now relayed false information. It's something that I don't want to do as a news channel where I'm trying to stay as fact-based as I can and then pass my opinions after that. I loathe it. But apart from that, if you don't understand the problem with AI right now with art, AI, 9 times out of 10, as far as everything I've seen, researched, and I know people who've been looking into this as well, it steals from existing art to create new art. It takes influences from across the internet, including the work of other artists, which means their work is then used and repurposed in something else, and they're not given credit, they're not given royalties. Why do we think there's strikes right now for actors and writers? AI is one of the biggest problems because writers don't have security in what they write. Thankfully, that's being addressed. But actors also don't have that. I have no doubt that AI can be used for good. I genuinely do think that, and we're going to be living with AI forever. We've just got to accept that. And if you're using AI in a game which has as much of a presence as Payday 3 at least did at launch, I would argue it doesn't have nearly as much now in the last month, but if you're using it in that game, then you're basically normalizing it and pointing out to other people, hey, you can use AI to create new things for your game, for your project, for whatever it is. And there will be people out there who'll use it the right way, the ethical way, but most people either won't know it's not ethical or won't care enough to work around it. You cannot be setting these terrible examples and then lying to people after it. And yes, it's all well and good that there was an actual art team that used the AI and got paid for actually making the art, whether it was through AI or not. But the people that the AI then stole the work from are still the ones who are left out with their work being used and then not even getting credit or paid for it. Someone's still getting hurt here. It doesn't matter that there was an art team that still got paid. The use of AI is not without victims. I mean, if you want a really big example, look at the Secret Invasion intro, the Marvel show that came out a couple of months ago. There was a huge issue over that because that used AI in its intros. People used AI for the intro sequence of the show, which came under flack because AI was using art from other sources without giving credit, because that's what AI does. It's been a big issue in the last year or so, and all Payday 3 is doing is adding to that problem. Doesn't matter what the intentions were, you've added to it and then lied about it. Everything right now with Payday 3 is making my blood boil, and that's why I'm taking a break, because I can't be bothered with this anymore. I won't be doing a news video or a stream about Payday 3 until this clears up, because I've had enough. It took me about 6 or 7 years to get to the point where I was only playing Payday 2 for videos or streams. I've been at that point now for Payday 3 within about 3 weeks of release. I don't play the game casually, my friends don't care to play it, I don't really care to stream it. I mean, hell, it's the game that got me Twitch partner a couple of weeks ago. I should be so grateful for that, but it's been completely overshadowed by the fact that the game is just not fun to play. I don't like the progression system, I don't like the lack of communication, and I don't like the community vibe right now. Whenever you say something about Payday 3, positive or negative, the comments are always negative, and I don't blame people. I see so little positivity right now with the game, and that can be fixed if you control the narrative. Talk to people, share the information, and stop sitting on your hands and not saying anything, because at some point, even I'm going to give up. And I have been doing my best to back this game as much as I can and try and offer hope when I can, but I am becoming cynical, and I can feel it in my heart. Anyone who knows me knows how optimistic I am. I liked Morbius, for goodness sake. That film was panned by everybody. If I can find good in that, I can find good in the bad situations. But here, I've had enough. So that is it. I am taking a break now until I get proper news about this update, because I am not adding to this vitriol anymore. It's making my blood boil. It's probably just making everyone depressed to watch, and I really am just sick of it. And as I've said a million times before, the only reason I ever agreed to be a partner was because they said I could be constructive when I felt necessary, as long as I wasn't a prick about it. That obviously wasn't how they said it, but that's the general vibe. And I don't think I am here. I'm offering a genuine, serious criticism that I know is not alone in me, that everyone else is feeling the same way, if not fair 90% of people. Let's not speak for the entire herd, but you need to communicate. It would be so easy to fix a lot of the problems right now if you talked to your audience instead of just occasionally logging onto Twitter to share a bit of fan art or say that one of your devs is streaming. Do something, say something, and I am sick to the teeth of saying it, which is why it's the last time I'm saying it. I'm ending the video there before I scream and push a chair over, because honestly I'm at the point where I've had enough now. Thank you all very much for watching and for all the support over the last few weeks. I cannot thank you enough, but for the sake of my own mental stability, I am done with this game until we hear news on an update. Proper, solid news. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon.